The HBCU Sports Podcast coming to you in 3, 2. Yeah. We are back. This is the HBCU Sports Podcast, episode 7. I am Kenn Rashad. He is Jeff Duplessis.
That's me.
We're going to call this the post Bayou Classic pre-SWAC Football Championship edition. I know that's rather long-winded, but it's appropriate nonetheless. Thank you. Thank all of you for taking a moment to listen to the HBCU Sports Podcast. We hope you find this podcast enjoyable. We hope you find it entertaining. We hope you find it informative. Before we get started, let's go over a couple of formalities here. We ask that you do take a moment to visit us on Spreaker. That's the official platform that we use to promote the podcast. Spreaker.com. That's not speaker. Spreaker with an R.com. Go to that website, do a search on HBCU Sports, and that will automatically take you to our official website on the Spreaker platform. Do us the favor and follow us. That way, doing so will automatically notify you whenever we upload new episodes to the platform, and you will automatically be notified when those episodes are uploaded. We also ask that you take a moment to donate to this podcast. It takes an awful lot of time, an awful lot of planning, and an awful lot of money, believe it or not, to put a show together. And we ask that you do take a moment to bless us with your dollars so that we can continue to produce this podcast on a regular basis. You can do so by visiting hbcusports.com/podcast. And once you get on that page, you will see to the right, there will be a donation button that will allow you to make a donation for any amount. And we would greatly appreciate whatever you could possibly give us. We also ask that you take a moment to follow us on the social networks. We are on Twitter. You can follow HBCU Sports at Real HBCU Sports. At Real HBCU Sports. You can follow yours truly, Kenn Rashad, at Kenn Rashad, Kenn Rashad, and Jeff Duplessis. Jeff Duplessis, they can follow you at JAYMO700. That's JAYMO, the number 700. 700. We can also be found on Facebook, and we are also on Instagram and a number of other social media platforms out there. So by all means, take a moment to follow us. And once again, thank you for taking a moment to listen to the podcast. With that said, Jeff, Bayou Classic 2016
is in the books.
It's in the books. And despite all of the hype and all of the talk and all of the what ifs and all of that other stuff, it just simply didn't live up to what we thought we were going to get.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the final score
52-30
wasn't. 52-30 probably wasn't as indicative of how bad the game went. I think really the third quarter was a dominating quarter for Grambling. They imposed their will on Southern. Scored 21 points. Outscoring 21-0 in the third quarter, and that basically was the game.
Yeah.
They led only by 4 at halftime. You come out, score 21-0 in the third quarter. You took their spirit, you took their will from them, and that was about it. And it's the way they did it. They did it by just pounding them, running the ball. Knocking them between their eyes, and just physically dominating at the line of scrimmage. And it was a big quarter, and it was the tail of the game, no doubt.
Yeah, and the amazing part about it was that the first half, we saw from Grambling, we saw how they were able to pass pretty much at will, and they were successful with the passing game. We didn't see a whole lot of the running game in the first half, and then the second half, it was that first touchdown of the second half. I believe it was something like 7 plays, and every single play was a run play.
Yeah.
And so, Martez Carter was Mr. Excitement. I mean, he showed up and showed out, running the ball on the ground. I think he had a kick return for a touchdown. And clearly, in many instances, he's been pretty consistent year out for Grambling. But I don't think it's one of those players who hasn't really gotten a whole lot of national attention when you compare him to players such as Leonard Tillery at Southern and Tariq Cohen at A&T. But he's been a very productive back for them nonetheless, considering that Grambling doesn't necessarily rely upon one back. But
that's the key right there. He's like a utility man. He doesn't have the usage rate of Leonard Tillery.
Right.
I think on the season he had only 90 attempts on the scrimmage, but that's 7 or 8 runs a game, basically.
Yeah, right.
So, but he when he did have it, he made plays.
Right.
He was not a necessarily a feature back. Because Justin Kelly was right there.
Yep.
He's the kind of the pounder.
Yep.
And Martez was kind of change of pace back. But they shared the ball real well.
Yeah, and when you look at the running game overall as a whole for Grambling, Martez Carter was effective on the ground. Justin Kelly was effective on the ground. Devontae Kincaid showed what he was right. Yeah, he showed what he was able to do on the ground, and so that in essence was kind of their ground attack, just utilizing those 3 players. And we even saw some flashes of brilliance from an up and coming LaDainian Brooks, who is, I'm telling you, man, that guy is going to be something special. And he's just a freshman.
He called him LaDainian Tomlinson at one point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, tell me about it. But for Southern, unfortunately, with the talk being with Austin Howard, with Howard and Leonard Tillery and Quinn, Tillery was pretty much the only person who was able to come through.
Yeah, I agree. The Grambling game plan was to not let Willie Quinn beat them. And they did a phenomenal job of doing that, especially on special teams.
Yeah.
But, we talked before the podcast started how they were punting to the 35 and 40 yard line.
Right.
And to hell with field position.
Right.
They just didn't want him to take it back 80, 85, 90 yards on them. So, we'll give you a field position,
right?
But we're not
exactly. And I think there's something to be said for the discipline that the coaching staff. I mean, literally the entire game, they would not even risk it, despite being up by 21, 28 points or whatever the case may be. They wouldn't even risk the chance of giving him an opportunity to run back a kick return, and it ultimately was a key point in eliminating the touches for Quinn on special teams that I think impacted Southern throughout the game.
You never want to play coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I wonder how things would have transpired had Austin Howard not fumbled that ball and had a touchback going in for the score. That was a huge play.
But you know what though?
Going against Southern, that really hurt them.
I guess I can't really be too overly critical because it was an effort play. The guy was he was stretching out, trying to break the plane, and unfortunately fumbled the ball beforehand. And it's like you said, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We have no idea of knowing how that might have impacted the rest of the game because Southern scored first. Took 6-0 lead. Didn't convert on the PAT, but that first scoring drive, I was immediately thinking, oh boy, okay. And then Grambling comes back and scores right after that. I'm thinking, man, we got us a ball game, and we pretty much had one in the first half. But the tide just turned. And when you look at the other playmakers for Grambling, you look at Chad Williams, the wide receiver, who's been everything during the course of the year. And, they even gave him an opportunity to become quarterback, in which he threw a touchdown pass to Verlin Hunter, who has also been able to come through in the clutch for Grambling's passing attack. So, I mean, it was no matter what Southern tried defensively, it just seemed as if they had no answer whatsoever for the Tigers.
I tell you, that catch by Verla Hunter in the end zone.
Give me that ball.
That was an NFL quality catch.
Give me that ball.
He used that was Odell Beckham hands. You hear me? I mean, he had some strong hands on that one, buddy, and he controlled that laying down the end zone. That was a great catch. And I think he's got a chance to play on the next level. I think he's a big, strong, fast-looking receiver. So
without question.
Him and Chad Williams are both playmakers.
Right. Some quick notes about some of the performances of some of the players from the Bayou Classic. Lennar Tillery of Southern ended the season as the second-ranked rusher in the nation. He surpassed A&T's Tariq Cohen with 1,665 yards. And after rushing, obviously more than 200 yards in the Bayou Classic. Tariq Cohen, just on a side note, finished with 1,588 yards. And unfortunately for the Aggies, they fell short in the first round of the NCAA FCS playoffs against Richmond. And and I guess we're going to pivot here. They didn't fare well at all in that game against the Spiders.
Disappointing loss. You always want to see your HBCU schools do well when they go against the historically white universities. Right. And Richmond has a strong history of being a very good program. They've won a national championship in recent years, so they're a good program.
Right.
I was just hoping that A&T would play a more competitive game, but in fairness to them, they were coming off probably their most disappointing and most emotional game of the season the week prior against North Carolina Central.
Right.
And as you said earlier, they were playing the third-string quarterback.
Right.
So there was a lot of things going against them. So be it.
Right, but we're going to get back to that game, but just a couple of quick notes about the Bayou Classic. Devontae Kincaid finished third in the nation. And he still has obviously at least one more game to play this Saturday against Alcorn State in the SWAC Championship game. But it right now is third in the nation in passing efficiency with 171.8 yards, which includes 2,600 yards passing, 28 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions.
That's impressive, man.
Chad Williams is seventh in the nation in receiving yards, 1,191 yards, tied for fourth in the nation with 9. In receptions with 8.0. So I thought it was important to get those superlatives out of the way because it's a testament to what Grambling has been able to accomplish since the season started. And it wasn't just one of those highlights in the game that we saw them play against Arizona. They've consistently been dominant since week 1. So now back to the A&T game, and this is something that we talked about before the podcast with respect to.
Well, can we pivot back to the Bayou Classic one quick second?
Sure, go ahead.
We were talking earlier about the success of this classic with the almost near record attendance and the highest attendance since Katrina.
67,800 plus, absolutely.
I think that was an awesome crowd, and I think we mentioned earlier was that because of the magnitude of the game, or was it just because it's a normal crowd? The Bayou Classic is being marketed so well now. Because
I've often kind of monitored this, and I ask myself, I'm like, okay, obviously a game of this magnitude, you've got to have marketing, you've got to have promotion. But then I'm thinking, okay, you've got two teams that have been undefeated in conference play, coming in at 8-0 for the first time now. And when you look at all of the epic games that we've witnessed in the Bayou Classic over the past, 43 years, to have these two teams coming in undefeated for the first time in conference play, that's staggering. And again, you have to ask, would we have seen a crowd of this magnitude regardless of the marketing, or is it or is it due to the fact that both of these teams are coming in undefeated? And I don't know if we'll ever know the answer, but your thoughts to that would be?
My speculation is that I think you would have had about 62 to 63,000 if both teams were, 8-3,
Okay, right.
71 in conference, 6-2 in conference,
right.
Under division. But I think going 8-0, that was that extra 5,000 or 6,000, not necessarily walk up, but people who were maybe casual fans.
Right.
Who said, I want to be part of this. I want to go and see this epic game. 2 8-0 teams for the first time in the Bayou Classic, in the 43 years of the Bayou Classic, to come in undefeated and with all the, with the championship game berth on the line.
Well, like I said, it's one of those things that we will never know for sure. It's always good to kind of speculate on what might happen or what could have happened. But regardless, the fact that this game was able to get nearly 70,000 people, I mean, that is just something that we've not seen in a very long time. So,
and I will say this here, just in closing, I'm listening to the powers that be in New Orleans. They were extremely excited and happy with the outcome. They felt it was a great economic impact for the city. And there's the organizers of the Classic say overall, there nearly 200,000 people participated between the game, the step show and the battle of the bands,
right?
The career fair. So they were thinking almost 200,000 people came through the turnstile, so to speak, to participate in the week-long festivities and activities down there.
Right. So, I mean, look, again, kudos to both teams. Kudos to the organizers and NOCCI for doing whatever it is that they did to get that crowd in. But enough of the Bayou Classic. Let's talk about A&T and the playoffs. And it isn't so much the fact that I want to talk about the game itself, but there was an interesting, we talked about this, and this, I'll admit, I was disappointed that A&T couldn't win this game, or that if they were going to lose, that the result wasn't a little more closer, in that, I think the final 39-10 was the final score. And for a team like North Carolina A&T, that for the most part was considered the team to beat in all of HBCU football from the time the season started, from mid-season up until the time that they faced an angry, mad North Carolina Central Eagle team. And even with reports coming out that Rod Broadway and his Aggies viewed this game against Richmond as a consolation prize to the Celebration Bowl. I mean, now just think about that for a moment. I mean, now granted, I understand it was an emotional loss to your rival, and as a result, you don't get a chance to repeat as Celebration Bowl champions, but you have a chance to compete for a national championship in the FCS, and it's a consolation prize.
It's an expensive consolation prize.
Yeah, exactly.
They had to pay some money out of their pocket to play Richmond. So that kind of adds salt to the wound, so to speak. So but the thing that is, when you, and again, we've always talked about the perception that those in the FCS world have about HBCUs and the MEAC and the SWAC, and how they can't necessarily play with the best of the best in the FCS world. And if you look at the results from previous first round games, it doesn't look good. When you look at the results with HBCUs and with the MEAC and SWAC, they haven't done very well. No, and I go back to what Rod Broadway said last year after the conclusion of the Celebration Bowl, after they beat Alcorn State, and I started the press conference by asking him his thoughts about the Celebration Bowl, and if you recall at that time, the talk about Celebration Bowl versus playoffs. And it was Rod Broadway who said, and I'm quoting him, that HBCUs simply are not financed to win national championships. And to hear him say that, and to be openly honest about it, and then to see what we witnessed just this past Saturday with A&T at Richmond, it makes you wonder. I mean, again, Jeff, this was a North Carolina A&T team that was ranked at one point 9th in the nation. Right. 9th. And yet they get drudged by Richmond. So what are we to take for that? If this is supposed to be the best that we have to offer, granted that we're now I want to be fair. Now, Was it the best we had to offer?
Well, see, that's the thing, because we always leave that gate halfway open or halfway closed, because you look at the fact that A&T played with what, third string quarterback?
Correct.
Might that have made a difference? Could it have made a difference?
Yeah, I think that had to play a role in not being as good as they had been all season. You can have good depth and you can replace some players, but when you get down to your third string quarterback, unless you're Ohio State 2014, you're usually going to be in trouble.
And so I just to hear how this all played out, and that now that there were reports mentioned that had A&T beaten North Carolina Central may not have necessarily even gotten in that large bid to participate in the playoffs.
Now that would have been highway robbery.
But my point to that is that had that happened, we would not have known how well North Carolina Central might have done in a similar situation, considering what they did against A&T. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. So that's a discussion that I think we will continue to address year in and year out until we finally get to the point to where an HBCU team actually beats an FCS win. But again, the same. Nice but hold up, the same
HBCU team to play a home game. Occasionally.
Well, maybe. But again, what makes A&T's situation even more mind-boggling and makes you want to scratch your head is that, keep in mind that this is the same team that beat Kent State in overtime, double overtime earlier in the year, an FBS opponent. So, I don't know what to make of that, and maybe this particular situation is overblown. Maybe this was just A&T on a bad day, and maybe they were just simply pissed off over the fact that they couldn't be in a Celebration Bowl. That's the thing that's going to always be lingering in the back of your mind. Look at what they did during the course of the year.
Well, Ken, if you went to the Celebration Bowl website, celebrationbowl.com, they had a fan poll there.
Yep.
That I thought was pretty interesting.
Yep.
You had a chance to vote on who you thought was the going to represent the MEAC and the SWAC in the Celebration Bowl. Right. Well, A&T had 40% of the votes. Central had only 28%. Yep. Grambling had 45%
for the SWAC.
For the SWAC. Right. What was interesting, Alcorn wasn't even.
Right. I think to complete that list, it was North Carolina A&T first, North Carolina Central second with 28% of the vote, Florida A&M 11% of the vote third, and South Carolina State fourth. For the SWAC, like you said, Grambling State 45%, Southern 16%, Prairie View 15%, third place. Jackson State came in fourth.
Now I'll be honest with you, that Florida A&M and that Jackson State,
I get it. That's absolutely. That was just
eager fans,
right. Absolutely, fans. Right. But Alcorn State didn't get any votes.
No, that was amazing. No, but again, they were 5-5 on the season, so maybe I'm not sure what the metrics on that poll was. How long?
Well, it was an online poll. I don't know if it obviously wasn't scientific, Right. But still, there's still something to be said for the fact that Alcorn State wasn't even mentioned in that poll, considering that they were just there last year, and as of now, despite the record, they're still competing for a SWAC championship title. Moving on quickly, just some quick notes. Tuskegee, their season came to an end. They lost their second round match against North Greenville. And the news of the moment, congratulations to Grambling offensive coordinator Eric Dooley, who was named FCS Assistant Coach of the Year by the American Football Coaches Association. And I'm telling you, Jeff, when you look at his body of work, it's just a matter of time before Eric Dooley is going to be a head coach of somebody's program.
Yeah, everything I hear about him, he's a fairly sharp guy, and he knows his stuff, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But Ken, I'm gonna throw a little shade on you here. I know you've been very critical of stats over the time, over a period of time. What do you make of them giving that award to a HBCU assistant coach?
I don't think it was stats that gave that award. It's the American Football Coaches Association, so I'm not going to give them any credit.
You sure it wasn't stats?
It was the AFCA.
Okay.
It was,
my bad then.
I think Stats gives out the Eddie Robinson Award, I believe. But that award that Eric Dooley received was from the American Football Coaches Association. I'm pretty sure of it. Stats published the release.
Maybe that's what I was looking at.
Right.
That's probably what I saw.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Reading is fundamental.
Well, yeah, but it was the American Football Coaches Association. They made that announcement. So no, can't give credit to Stats. So,
all right. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, but that's the case. So congratulations. I mean, Eric Dooley, offensive coordinator right now. Grambling was the offensive coordinator under Monty Coleman at UAPB, and was able to get some things done there. And it's amazing what an offensive coordinator makes, because he leaves UAPB, and look at UAPB right now.
Yeah,
had a successful stint at Southern. I believe he was the wide receivers coach, I believe. So look, the man is just getting it done, and congratulations to Eric Dooley, just a real nice guy. And also, we're still talking about Grambling here. Grambling has found a new AD in Paul Bryant, who is currently, or was formerly, the athletic director at South Carolina State. That job will begin on January 1st. Of course, HBCU Sports broke that news. He is going to be receiving a 2-year deal pending ULS board approval that will pay him a total salary of $160,000. $30,000 of that will be supplemented by the Grambling University Foundation. Now, just to kind of give you guys some feedback, and I'm reporting here, there were rumors, and there had been speculation previously that Bryant was the man for a while. It was known for a while that he was going to be the person named AD. But the thing that took so long was, from my understanding, was the terms and the money. And some were saying that he was going to be named AD at the Bayou Classic. That never happened. But it appears that he has now been announced officially as the AD. An official press release was issued by the university, and so Grambling finally is going to get an AD for the first time, a permanent AD for the first time since 2014. So, and
reading his bio, Ken, he has not always been in the HBCU world.
No. He was, I believe, South Carolina State, was at Stillman before that, and then I think before that, Eureka College.
Up in Illinois.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, congratulations to Paul Bryant and to Grambling State for finally getting an athletic director to lead the athletic program.
2 years of an open spot, huh? Finally, it's getting filled.
Yeah. What can you say? So, Jeff, I think we have gotten all of that, the good stuff, the tidbits out of the way. And I think it's time for us to discuss the big game that is awaiting, and that is the SWAC Championship Game between Grambling and Alcorn State.
Now, when is that? Is that coming up soon?
That's this Saturday.
Oh, really?
This Saturday in Houston at NRG Stadium. Or Energy Stadium. I don't know. Is it Energy Stadium? I don't know. Whatever.
I think it's a 3 NRG.
NRG, but I don't know why it was the Energy. I don't know. Energy, NRG, whatever the case may be. But it's going to be there.
It's designed to mess with people.
Right. And so
the Toyota SWAC Championship. Let's call it what it is.
Okay. The Toyota SWAC Championship. All right. Duly noted.
Okay, we got to get Toyota.
We got to get it right. I got you. Thank you, Toyota, for sponsoring the event. Okay. So here is where, well, we talked about this briefly before the podcast. You've got Grambling. We already know about Grambling, and we talked about Alcorn State, and of course the season that they've had. It's been rocky, but again, they've done what they needed to do to get to where they are, and they have an opportunity to defend their championship for the third straight year.
Yeah,
and I think we came across some notes, and I think The only other team that has won the SWAC championship 3 years in a row since the game started was Grambling, and Alcorn has an opportunity to do that. 5-5 Alcorn, by the way.
5-5, but a team that has underachieved from what expectations was before the season, but a team that also had a lot of key injuries throughout the season, probably more than most other schools in the SWAC, to key players, to key individuals. And I think that led to kind of a disappointing season. But they prevailed, they persevered, and they won the East. And now they have an opportunity to slay Goliath, and to see if they can do it.
And I'm going to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Now, granted, I think it's safe to say it's going to be an uphill climb. I mean, I'm going to reference something that Broderick Fobbs said about the Arizona game. It would have to be the perfect storm for Alcorn to be able to pull this off. I mean, if you, in every media outlet, anyone who follows the SWAC, anyone who is whether you follow the SWAC or whether you follow HBCU football in general, Alcorn is coming in as a clear-cut underdog in this game, and it's because of that that you kind of have to worry. You wonder, they're going to probably come into this game thinking it's us against the world, and I have to ask: is that something that? I mean, nothing's impossible, but.
Nothing's impossible, but like you said, it's an uphill climb. We know how dominant Grambling is, but I think for Alcorn, realistically, they have a chance to defeat Grambling. Grambling kind of has to play into Alcorn's hands. They have to make mistakes, several mistakes, turn the ball over, be undisciplined, get 10 or 12 penalties, do stupid things that they have not necessarily done all season long. And then Alcorn will have to just be Alcorn. They'll have to run the ball, play keep away, so to speak, to keep the Grambling offense off the field, and try to control the clock and control the tempo of the game. And hopefully Alcorn would like this game to be in the 20s, maybe even in the teens. So they don't want to see Grambling getting 45 points on them. That's a recipe for disaster.
In the 20s, that's an awful lot to ask for a team that scores in
fourth in the nation and scoring, fifth in the nation and points given up. Grambling. So that's enough. That's an awful lot to ask. You're right.
Yeah, our very own Kendrick Marshall wrote a pretty interesting piece in which. He in referencing the 2016 SWAC Championship, he wrote an article describing the only way, Jeff, that Alcorn could beat Grambling State, and he pretty much echoed what you said, and that it would really come down to them in the ground game, controlling the ball, controlling the clock, and basically being able to to get it done on the ground, because. From what I've seen of Alcorn, they're not a team that is known for its passing attack. But
I will say this, Ken. Alcorn, if Lenoris can play, they'll have
Footman,
they will have some semblance of a passing game.
Yeah, well,
if Noah Johnson is playing, they won't be able to pass it. He is more of an option.
That is their ground. Exactly. He would be a part of that ground attack when you put Johnson, DeLance Turner. Those are going to be the people that would get the job done for them on the ground. But again, you're talking about that versus a team that is ranked first in the conference in rushing defense.
Yeah.
And so,
like you said, it's an uphill climb for the Braves. It's not going to be easy. It will not be easy. And if they don't play well, it could get out of hand really, really quickly. And that's something they have to be well aware of.
We'll probably get on this subject probably by I'm sure when we talk about the Celebration Bowl, but I think it is important, and I'm gonna just say this, and I don't want to come across as sounding like a homer, but this is going to obviously be a homer comment. as a Grambling graduate, yes, I hope Grambling wins. And I hope they win for the simple fact that, again, and I made this part of me known last week when I wrote the piece about why the Celebration Bowl was hoping Grambling would win the Bayou Classic and the SWAC Championship Game. Because, again, the Celebration Bowl was designed to get the very best from the MEAC versus the very best from the SWAC. And, again, if Alcorn wins the SWAC Championship Game, they are back-to-back SWAC champions. Kudos. They would be the team that would represent the SWAC conference in the Celebration Bowl. Now, does that necessarily mean that they would be the best team in the conference? I think it's safe to say that they would not be, but obviously if they win Saturday, they would be the best team on that day.
Right.
But the reason why it was important for me to bring this up, and this is another thing, because I've been kind of monitoring some of the message boards out there, other than my own, yes. And I've gone to the MEAC fan boards, in which there are some who seem to believe that regardless of the outcome, whoever the SWAC sends, it doesn't really matter who they send because the MEAC is going to torch them anyway. And I understand that they are MEAC graduates, and obviously there's a certain bias with the MEAC. But when you look at the track record and when you look up previous head-to-head matchups, they would be justified in making those comments.
Yeah, they would be.
So,
right.
I mean, just think of what happened last year in the Celebration Bowl. North Carolina A&T defeated Alcorn State. Alcorn State, clearly the best team last year, representing the SWAC. A&T, clearly the best team, representing the MEAC. But then when you look at the previous games played in prior MEAC SWAC challenges, you know, next year is going to be Southern and South Carolina State. That game is going to be held in Baton Rouge. They're going to be playing these games, at the actual school locations now. Bethune-Cookman and Alcorn State, that game was canceled. Unfortunately, that game ended, I think, midway through the second quarter, I believe, or something like that. But they never finished that game, and it didn't count in the standings. And I think that game was, for the most part, pretty competitive before it ended. But then you go back, 2015, South Carolina State played Arkansas Pine Bluff. Victories for the MEAC, 35-7. 2014, North Carolina A&T defeats Alabama A&M, 47-13. Florida A&M, 2013 beats Mississippi Valley. Now, 20.
No, okay, Ken. Let me.
I already know where you're going, but let me finish. 2012, Bethune-Cookman beats Alabama State, 38-28. 2011, Bethune-Cookman beats Prairie View, 63-14. The SWAC hasn't won in either the Celebration Bowl or the MEAC SWAC Challenge since 2010 when Southern defeated Delaware State 37-27. Now, it has been my belief that in the MEAC SWAC Challenge games in recent years, the SWAC didn't necessarily send, or we didn't necessarily have our best team. Absolutely. There you go. And when you look at teams,
Carolina State,
Bethune-Cookman, exactly. Those were
Bethune-Cookman before that. These were all the upper echelon of the
right, and we're constantly perennial favorites. Absolutely,
Mississippi Valley,
absolutely,
Alabama State,
absolutely.
So
they were all perennial favorites. At the beginning of the year in the MEAC, and so I think the so-called that theory is kind of flawed. Let's have
Grambling go play Morgan State and see what happens.
Well.
Better yet,
right.
Let's have
so
go play Delaware State.
Right. So that's why it's important for me, because I think say what you will, whether it be A&T or Central, North Carolina Central, the best team come out of the MEAC, outright MEAC champions. Kudos to them. That has been proven. Grambling needs to win this game Saturday, and thus we will really get the chance to see just how good either Central is or Grambling is. And I think that will hopefully validate my belief in that the MEAC isn't necessarily head and shoulders better than the SWAC, as some might be led to believe.
So this SWAC championship game is going to be on a neutral site. If you had to pick a line, Ken, what would you say the line would be for this game? Well,
see, I don't want to get ahead of myself, because then we're talking about which game?
The SWAC Championship game.
Oh, the SWAC Championship game. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not jumping.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
No, not jumping
look, we kind of touched on this briefly. I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. I don't.
I'm going to say I would say Grambling would be a 17-point favorite.
Okay, that would be fair. And here's what I think. I think this has the potential of being pretty much what we saw against Southern in the Bayou Classic. First quarter, maybe first half, it'll be competitive. It'll be competitive, but I just think that again, the effort for Grambling offensively, defensively, and special teams. I just think that over time, it's that grind that's just gonna, that's just gonna come through. And I think when it's all said and done, it will be domination. Now, look, for what it may seem, and here's another factor we need to put in consideration, because there's this narrative that Alcorn folks are going into this game thinking it's going to be us against the world. But for Grambling, this is the revenge game.
Oh yeah.
Now, granted, they met during the regular season, and they, obviously they won. But this is for everything. This is for the SWAC Championship, and Alcorn annihilated Grambling last year.
They did.
Annihilated them, and so I think that they will go into this game with just as big of a chip, if not bigger, as Alcorn will. So there's a lot of intrigue. There's obviously a lot to play for, but I think we shouldn't get too caught up into the fact that Alcorn is going to be coming in with this us against the world factor, because for Grambling, this is a revenge game for them for something that they were unable to do last year. So I think we need to just kind of put it there.
Ken, I want to add this one thing that scares me, and it scared the heck out of me when I was watching the Bayou Classic, was late in the game when Devontae Kincaid bumped into his offensive line, went down, grabbed his leg. I was like, oh my God, that does not look good.
Right.
He has that tender ankle. And if for some reason, if he would go out early in this game, all bets are off. Then I think it would be a much more competitive game. Not saying that Grambling, they would be better than Grambling, but it would make life a lot easier for the Braves with a Kincaid on the sideline.
Well, that would be a fair point, but I think that whether it be the backup in Cherry or I think Wright, who would be the backups, I think that they have enough reps. Granted, they're not Devontae Kincaid, but I think that Grambling has enough weapons to where if Kincaid, for whatever reason, I don't want to even speak this into existence, but if for whatever reason he he can't play, I think they would be okay. I think their ground attack would be good enough.
I hope so.
Wow, you hope so? Okay, so much for being.
No. I mean, I think you're right, but you tell me what's the most.
So much for being
takes every snap.
So much for being unbiased, you Homer. You Homer. You just. I hope so. You got comfortable there, but anyway.
Have you heard anything about ticket sales or attendance for the championship?
So far, no, I have not. Now, if Ticketmaster is any indication of how ticket sales are going, and I did go by the Ticketmaster website today, and it specifically shows where there's the Alcorn side and there's the Grambling side. So far, based upon what I've seen, Alcorn has sold more tickets, has purchased more tickets. I've seen Alcorn. Kudos to Brave Nation, man. I think half of the state of Mississippi came into Houston last couple of years, and the year that they played Southern 2 years ago, and I'm about to tell you, some folks might disagree, but from what I saw with my own eyes, Alcorn had more folks there than Southern did that year.
Wow.
Yeah,
I only hope that Grambling fans are not being complacent and looking for Atlanta. I'm gonna save my money. We go to Atlanta.
Look. In all fairness, now you think about what the Grambling fans are being asked to do. You're being asked to support the Bayou Classic.
Well, I know 3 weeks in a row.
You're being asked to go to the SWAC Championship game, And if they win that, you're being asked to go to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta the week before Christmas.
Yeah, I know.
That's a tall order. But and with that, I would say,
got to break the piggy.
Yeah, I get it. But I just think that let's tap the brakes here. I think we're not giving Grambling folks enough credit. Now, granted, I can speak. They can be finicky. They can be fickle.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, I'm gonna be there. I ain't gotta buy a ticket, but I gotta pay to get there. But anyway. That wraps up. Man, it's almost time to go. Any parting shots that you'd like to throw out there before we end it?
One parting shot, and this is completely off the dark, but last night Mississippi awards the Connolly Trophy for the College Player of the Year in the state of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And it's a multi-pronged way to vote, but the sports writers get the majority of it. But Jackson State defensive end Javancy Jones led the online popular votes. He got 31% of that, but he still didn't get the trophy. It went to lieutenant from Ole Miss.
Wow.
But I thought that was pretty good. A lot of people, and it was just probably Jackson State fans and supporters and alumni. Right. They got online, they got on their smartphones and said, we want Javancy to get the Connolly Trophy, and he didn't quite make it. But kudos to him. He had a great year. He's a great player. He's a big time pro prospect. So, want to give him a shout out.
One other thing we missed too that we didn't talk about was Joe Thomas Sr. Father of Green Bay linebacker Joe Thomas became the oldest man to play in the Division I football game for South Carolina State. How many would he had? 3 rushes for 5 yards?
I saw a video of one. It was like 3 yards in a dark cloud of dust. But for a 55-year-old,
yes, sir. Yeah, way to go.
He looked like John Riggins back in the
day. Nothing wrong with John Riggins, baby. That's you talking about 3 yards in a cloud of dust, baby. Then that if that's the right person to compare him to. Believe me. And so kudos to Mr. Thomas. I should call him Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, he's not much older than me. But anyway, kudos to Mr. Thomas for becoming the oldest man to play Division I football for South Carolina State. And then one last note, just before we get out of here, we've got to take a moment and as we get to as we progress into the basketball season. We need to go ahead and take a moment to salute North Carolina Central, who upset Missouri 62-52.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking about SEC Missouri.
Right. And that's a good win. I mean, Missouri's not a world beater, but no, regardless, you're talking about a Power 5 conference and a team that has had success in basketball for many, many years. And to defeat them, it's a big win for the Eagles. Yeah,
and look, I mean, I know you said that Missouri isn't necessarily anything to write home about, but like you said, I mean, but what's more impressive is North Carolina Central, because again, we're talking about a program that not that long ago was Division II. And so when you look at what they've been able to do, and this isn't, look, for North Carolina Central, this isn't the first time for their basketball program. I mean, they've knocked off a couple of majors before, and they've held their own. I think what they went into the tournament, was it last year, the year before last? Were they a 15 seed or 14 seed or something like that? So So I mean, this isn't anything new, but the reason why this is important, and I want to get this out of the way, is that with North Carolina Central, we see what they're doing, and we see what they've done in basketball. We see what they're doing in football, and and they're about to take the national stage in the Celebration Bowl. It's just a matter of time, man, before they just blow up. So I just thought it was important for us to get this out of the way. But look, thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to listen to the HBCU Sports Podcast. I am Kenn Rashad. Jeff, thank you, sir, for tolerating with my BS.
Thank you again, my man. It was a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to co-host with you, and looking forward to next week. We'll talk about
we'll be talking about the winner,
and then we can start talking about
absolutely
the big game on the 17th.
See you later, everybody. Talk to you later, Jeff.
All right now.